Okay. Okay, we are into part two. And we will focus on the Porter's 5 generic competitive strategies. Porter's 5 generic competitive strategies. So there are 3 categories: cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. But for cost leadership and focus, they are then divided into 2. Anybody can tell me what the 2 subdivisions are? It is cost leadership, low cost, and best value. And for the focus strategies are also low cost and best value. What is a focus strategy? What is a focus strategy? Anybody? What is a focus strategy? A niche. A focus strategy is another word for a niche strategy. So you see in the top left corner, it is cost leadership, low cost, cost leadership, best value, differentiation, and cost, focus strategy, low cost, and focus strategy, best value. So we look at each. So you have type 1 and type 2. So I think for students, you should be able to distinguish between a low-cost strategy and a best value strategy. Right? And the low cost, I think, suggests specifically that for the low-cost strategy, the company wants to focus on the minimum that they can get. And what conditions you think would force a company to focus on a low-cost strategy? What conditions might cause a company to focus on a low-cost strategy? What conditions? What kind of business conditions? And what about the economic situation? All right, but you go on general. But remember, what are we looking at? 5 generic competitive strategies. So what might cause the company to focus on low cost? Intense competition, intense rivalry. That the rivalry is so intense that margins are becoming very, very narrow. So in order for me to make a profitability as by my business model, I need to find ways to keep my costs down. Now folks, students generally have a problem with 2 terms, and it happens every year. And that's the difference between cost and price. I repeat, the difference between cost and price. Why is that? Because culturally, at least I know for Barbados, we will go into a store and say how much it costs, and they say $5.55. How much that costs? And they say $40. So culturally, we ask people with the cost of this, but technically for this course, the cost is the cost of production. So if you go in that mini marts and do a survey, I bet you that a lot of students would ask them how much it costs. So you should have, if you want to find out the cost, you need to look at unit cost. The cost of labor, cost of electricity, cost of whatever supplies it costs to make a bag of chips or to make a roti in the patties. Price is what customers pay. So you really should ask for what's the price of it. But I've found under exam conditions, a number of students get cost and price mixed up. So please, in the exam conditions, do not get cost and price mixed up. Be clear that you understand the difference between costs versus the prices that are offered for goods and services. So in this example of the low-cost leadership, we are talking about costs, not price. And we are saying because you're able to keep your costs to a minimum, you're able to offer a better price to the customers. Right? And this is what this is about. So it talks about, on best value, low-cost strategies is still looking at cost leadership, but you're focusing on the best value, meaning that quality, you're looking to reduce costs, but you're still factoring in the quality dimension in cost leadership type 2. Now, the first point I said listed here is a point I mentioned about how things are integrated. Because it is said it can be done in conjunction with differentiation, which is the other strategy. And we'll talk about differentiation shortly. And again, economies of scale. And we know under value chain analysis, economies of scale is classified as a cost driver. Capacity utilization is achieved and linkages with suppliers and distributors. So once you see linkages with suppliers and distributors, again, it is talking about value chain and distributors. And why do you have this linkage with suppliers and distributors, my friend here? Why do you have this linkage with suppliers and distributors? You know it. Just what you're looking at. Why in looking at cost leadership, there's a linkage with suppliers and distributors? Somebody? Right, so in relation to what we have discussed this morning then, what specifically would it refer to here when you talk about suppliers and distributors? What tool can help me analyze? You're very correct. Because you say it's where your costs are, so it means you would need to engage in value chain analysis. Because value chain analysis looks at your inbound logistics, your source of suppliers, and it also looks at your outbound logistics, your sources of supply. So I'm saying if you're talking about, if you get a question in the exam talking about cost leadership strategies, you will have to incorporate your understanding that it has to look at supply issues and distributor issues because those are two major cost centers, which means that you have to mention something about how cost leadership must involve issues of value chain analysis at inbound logistics and value chain analysis at the level of outbound logistics, strategies to reduce costs. And that's where you're looking at your unit cost to find where best you have a driver that you want to reduce and enhance your cost advantages. And it says ways of ensuring total costs across value chain, and it mentions value chain. So folks, that's what I'm saying to you, my friend. Things are all integrated. We can't get away from it. And here it's specifically saying it's ways of ensuring total costs across the value chain are lower, and that's where you get to your strategic cost analysis unit by unit. So the point we are making here, to make decisions related to the 5 competitive strategies, you have to integrate knowledge of the value chain in order to answer that question, or vice versa. And it says perform value chain activities more efficiently than the rivals, because when you do that, you're able to get a cost advantage. And when I get a cost advantage, I'm able to offer my products at a better value for money at better prices. And that's really the relationship between cost and price. And you need to emphasize that in the exam, that relationship. And it says revamp the firm's overall value chain to eliminate or bypass cost-producing activities, which we call in the technical term cost drivers. Those are the right? And the cost drivers if too high, can give you a cost disadvantage. And when you have a cost disadvantage, your competitors have an advantage over you, which is what you don't want. Everybody with me? And it just gives you some examples. Cost leadership can be especially effective when price competition of rivals is vigorous, and the language you know that is linked to intense rivalry among competing firms. Right? Rivals' products are identical and supplies are readily available means if the supplies are readily available and the costs are good, it means that the bargaining power of the supplier might not be that difficult and suppliers are reliable. Right. Buyers have low switching costs. Which part of the Porter's 5 forces relates here? Buyers have low switching costs. Right. Bargaining power of the buyer is, the bargaining power of the buyer would be, buyers have low switching costs. The buyer, because if I want, the buyer have the power if I want to switch. And remember, folks, buyers can be at 2 levels. You can have a corporate buyer and an individual buyer, like a citizen buying goods and services, you see. So sometimes the text switch between a corporate buyer, which is a business buying stuff, versus an individual going to buy goods and services, you see. So I gather this one might be more for the corporate buyer. Me switching cost means, for me to switch and go something else wouldn't really cost me anything significant. And buyers are large and have significant power. And industry newcomers use low prices to attract buyers. Again, this is low-cost strategy. Right. And then we go to type 3, differentiation, greater product flexibility, lower costs. And again, you focus on cost, improves service, more features. Right? So from your marketing, anybody, give me an example of differentiation. Anybody, give me an example of differentiation. It is all around us. So if you have the Samsung, unfortunately, you all hear what is happening to Samsung? Apple all the time, boy. I tell you all students all the time, this Samsung foolishness all the time. Apple. I don't know y'all in this Samsung thing. You got to go with the best, right? Look. The best. Y'all Samsung. How many? I bet you 80% of y'all in here got Samsung. Y'all hear what happened? They had to stop production. Well, we never had to do that. We never had to do that. You know, all the Apple people, let me see your hands. Apple people. Samsung people, put your hands up. Some don't frightened to put your hands up, you know. We got Samsung computer. And they had to stop production. They fixed the problem and created another problem. What happened to y'all Samsung people? Huh? In fact, I got some videos of Samsung and Apple. We can show them next week. Apple and Samsung, we competed against y'all. But that's a serious situation there, you know. That's really strategy. The kind of strategies they have to use now to get out of that hole, Lord, boy. That's real serious strategy they have to use. That's a case in business strategy. Wow, it's because it's brand reputation now, you see. It's a brand reputation issue. So, Samsung, so when you got you can have, like, Samsung would got, you would have a particular phone, but it have different models or different series. So Apple would have the iPhone 6 and 6S and then some 6N or what. And I know Samsung would have for the 6 series, you have the Edge. And the 7 might have different series to it too, right? Right. 7H, right, 7H, right. So that's differentiation. I have a basic product, but I add particular unique features, you know, to the product. And computers, the same thing for computers. Cars are the classic case for differentiation. So I would have you can keep starting. We can have the Kia. So you can have the Kia Cerata standard model, then the GLX, then you have the Coupe. All that is differentiation. Right? So some might have different rims, some might have leather seats, others have plastic seats or cloth seats. So that's differentiation. The same basic product. Watches, there's a lot of differentiation with watches also. Same basic brand, but little features. Some might have the high end might have diamonds in them or something like that. So that's differentiation, where you just are adding additional features, which is the final point there, to a product. So why do you think you're adding these features? What are you trying to do by adding multiple features? Right, you're trying to attract different, what do we call it in marketing? Demographics, right. You're trying to attract different demographic groups, which could be according to age, according to gender, according, some people, to race, ethnic origin, right? Even according to religion. Because I see some people here, and I don't understand the concept, they said a Christian daycare, right? Or Christian preschool. I thought a preschool is a preschool. But so they're branding it, but they're branding it because they're saying, we want people to think it's a Christian place for Christians. So every preschool in Barbados now is a Christian preschool. You know, it's a Christian. So the assumption is they will get Christian values when they come here. Right? But that's what they're saying. It doesn't mean that's what was happened. But again, it's branding. Right? So people are trying to attract a religious group. When you say a Christian daycare, you're trying to get Christians to bring their children to the particular daycare, you see. So differentiation is all around us. Glasses. You can have Ray-Ban and all the other brand names. The land range is a classic example of differentiation. So you can have land bags with little features, land shoes, land belts, land wallets. Right? So again, land tends to be at the high end. So if you have a lot of money, or if you want to pretend you have a lot of money, you buy land. You can't afford it. Right? You understand? You can't afford it, but you're buying it. Huh? And you have sales. But then now, you have the substitutes. So what companies do, Chinese are good at it. Imitation. It looks like a Samsung, but it's not a Samsung. It looks like an iPhone, but it's not an iPhone. It looks like land, but it is not land. It looks like a top quality watch, but it's not the watch. But it is a substitute. So the only way you know it is not the original is to go close. So you can buy it and walk about. People say, wait, you have a Gucci bag? It's not really Gucci. It's Gucci with a Y, you know, Gucci. So when you go close, you will realize it's a Y and not an I. But anybody say that from a distance, she's wearing Gucci, she has Gucci. She got money. You know, and glasses, same thing with glasses, from afar it looks original. But when you look close, you realize the words look similar, but the words are different. People do that, but it's all part of substitute products, right? It has the same appeal with a much lower price, right? But you all know what I'm talking about. So differentiation is important. As it says, few rival firms are following a similar differentiation approach. So you want to be unique. And it has a lot of technology in it. Right? Technology allows you to make really significant and speedy improvements in differentiation. But as I say, differentiation is trying to cater to a wide group of demographics in the market. And that's what helps to keep the product from maturing, that every year you add features. And you add features, and you add features, add little unique things to it, and gives it longevity. So you want to be able to make sure the product life cycle keeps growing as much as possible and not getting to the plateau. And the final one is called the focus strategies. The other term is really the niche strategy. It's a niche strategy, and you know niches cater to a particular select group. So even for the Samsung series at the high end is not much different to Apple. It's really for people who got a lot of money, because the prices are similar to Apple. So your 7 series that came out, or the 6, again, they cater to the high end. You know, if you got a lot of money, you can buy the phones $1,500 or $1,800. Same thing. So again, they cater to the high end. They're not catering for the mass appeal. They're catering for the high end. And that's what a focus strategy about. You're looking for a particular niche. And so that's what it says here, that the niche is large, profitable, and growing. And again, for the smartphone business all over the world, especially China and India with populations of 1 billion people. You're talking about 1 billion people, 1.2 billion in China and India. Now, I don't know if you understand what 1 billion people are, but if you travel to I traveled to India some years ago, and you see it, when you go in the city, you see so many people walking up and down. It's mind-boggling, you know. It's just so many people. So picture a population of 1 billion. The Caribbean's total population, if you go from north to south, it's about 7, English speaking, 7 million, right? 8 or 9 million. You understand the Caribbean, if you include the island chain from north coming down south, English speaking, is about 9 million. China and India, 1.2 billion. So try to estimate the scale and size of these markets and the potential for growth. It's mind-boggling. So that's why a lot of Western countries are targeting, for technology innovations and cell phones, they're targeting China and India, 2 of the fastest growing economies in the world. And that's what it's referring here, you know, growth potential. So it's really where, in this niche, you are comfortable. There are not a lot of players fighting to get into the niche. Right? And what allows it to be unique would be the same thing we talk about the proprietary assets. That there are some unique competencies and distinct competencies that you have, and it's protected by copyright, so nobody can easily copy what you're doing. You see, so when it comes to diamonds, diamonds are not things that you find all over the world. I mean, you know, De Beers across Africa has been dominating that market for a long time. I think Botswana recently started to take control of gold, and then Tanzania, they got something now called, they call it black diamonds, I forgot the name, Tanzanite, which is the alternative to the traditional clear diamonds. And Tanzanite, now what they call it, the black diamonds, becoming very, very popular across the world, very expensive. And so again, diamonds are not cheap, and diamonds are not there for the average man or woman. Diamonds are for people who got the money, and the range of diamonds could be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars people pay for diamond ring. Some people can pay $500, you know, $300. Well, I don't wear jewelry, so it doesn't bother me. But again, when you compare buying a ring for $500 and thinking it's a lot of money for people paying $200,000 for a diamond ring, depending on how thing it is. So that is what a focus strategy is about, this unique niche. Right? So again, the focus strategy looks at low cost and best value. And folks, do not get the low cost, best value in a niche mixed up with cheap. All it is saying that in this niche market, the company is trying to keep its costs to the lowest minimum levels that it can still offer customers the best value for money. But it is not cheap. Right? So please don't think that low cost in a niche means that it's a cheap product. It is just about managing costs and looking at your value chain and ensuring that you can make sure, because the more you keep your costs down, the company is able to, when you keep your costs down, what is the main thing you're looking to do? Increase your profitability. Right? And all companies want to look at the balance sheet. Who in particular will be concerned about profitability at the end of the year in a business? The shareholders and the owners of business. Nobody goes into business because they just like to work hard. They want to make a profit, that they can use the profits to continue to build a business, but to enjoy themselves and enjoy life. So the shareholders want to know the company is profitable. And what terms in the accounting or finance shareholders might be interested in? What ratios? Return on earnings, return on investment. Sorry? The profitability. What else? They might be interested in. You all missed the most important one. Earnings per share. Why might shareholders be interested in earnings per share? Because earnings per share will tell them how much money they'll, or if they will get any money at the end of the financial year. And an alternative to earnings per share is what they call the PES, the PER, price earnings ratio. What is the price earnings ratio? Who might be interested in the price earnings ratio? The you sure competitors? Why investors? How and when? Right.
It's how fast they will get it in terms of turnaround time.
Yeah.
And how I'm not.
Well, you're hot. But we'll deal with that because the price earnings ratio really is for investors who are willing to take a risk now, anticipating that over time they will get significant returns that will benefit them, you see. So it's really like a future earnings projection. That in the next 5 to 10 years, this company has the potential to earn X. So they do these calculations in the price earnings ratio that will do these long-term projections that of the kind of earnings that are likely to be derived over time. So it's a high-risk strategy, but again, big investors take high risk in the markets as such. You see. But it has to do again with the share value and the projections of how share value could increase over time. And it has a whole set of things to do with the profitability and other things like that. Right. So as I said, I will do a separate lecture on the, I think I had it scheduled for week after, on the financial ratio analysis. All right. So folks, the only other things that we have to look at, looking at globalization and strategy, we'll do look at some videos looking at global strategy, but we also have to look at strategic analysis and choice, which is I think the final major lecture. And strategic analysis and choice actually looks at some key matrices that I'll tell you. We'll look at that next week. But I want you to look at these matrices. It is one called the space matrix, SPACE. They're all in the text. The space matrix, SPACE. The grand strategy matrix. There is the grand strategy matrix. Excuse me a bit.